Welcome to the Mission Files, everybody. This is Tennyson Easted, the writer and creator of Jump Rangers. And here, let's just tilt this up a little bit. One sec. Doop doop doop. There, it's a little better. This is a weekly stream where we sit down together and we write a one-shot adventure for the Jump Rangers tabletop role-playing game. This last one shot that we've been working on has taken us 3 weeks to finish because there's a lot of random generation tables and things of that nature that go along with this particular adventure. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for people. Basically, the sort of idea of the adventure that we're running is that it's part of a Jump Ranger's job to go out and explore and find new places for humanity to colonize out there in the galaxy. We're refugees. We're struggling to survive. We need places to live. So if a Jump Ranger isn't doing something urgent, if they're not helping people directly survive, then they should go out and look for something to do. Is what the Trek rule is. There's 8 rules in the Jump Rangers code. The Trek rule is one of them. It carries just as much weight as any of the other rules that the Jump Rangers live by, and it's important to them. So what I wanted was an easy, compact, one mission kind of layover for, what happens if a Jump Ranger just hops on a Saurian mothership that they don't know. I wanted random generation tables for who's running the Saurian mothership, what kind of ship, literally what kind of ship they're running, and then where does the Saurian mothership go? What kind of trade route does it have? And you can kind of piece together the story of that mothership from the clues that are provided by the random generation tables here. So the first episode that we did was kind of clocking here. I'll show you, clocking through the through the overall structure of these one-shot data deck files, and we'll talk a little bit about that today, just in case anybody's having their first adventure on the mission files here with us. The gist of it is this: you are not going to be able to get people to focus for too long on any given night of role playing, especially if it's people's first time playing together or if they don't get to play together that often. So you don't want to try to accomplish too much in any one given game session. So I give us 4 scenes in which to tell the story. One of those scenes is going to have to be the scene where the Jump Rangers find out what the story's about and what they're actually supposed to be doing. One of those scenes is the time that you're going to have to wrap things up and, decide what to do with the story once you end the session. If you're going to be handing out XP, if you're going to be giving them the heroes props for whatever successes they may have created, or whatever the case may be, give them extra gear or loot or anything, you need a scene for that, which gives us 2 sessions for the meat and potatoes. It gives us 2 things that the characters can do fundamentally before you're out of time, because characters are going to take longer than you think to accomplish any particular thing in the game. They're going to talk amongst themselves. They're going to tell jokes. They're going to order dinner. There's going to be all kinds of things that happen that are not part of your plan as a storyteller. You need to make sure that there's room for that, because that's part of the fun of gaming. And part of the fun of Jump Rangers is that we give the heroes and the players, the characters, a lot of room to breathe and a lot of room to own the story. We don't want to take that away just because your friends don't have a lot of time in which they can get together, right? So this is part of what we're trying to build into these one shots. So the sheet, the format that I use for these one shots is always the same, because we already know what we have to accomplish. We just have these 2 scenes to work with, right? So the big picture is, what is the context of the story that we're telling in this one evening, in this one shot in the larger Jump Rangers universe? Why is what's happening here something that happens in the universe? What's going on in the Jump Rangers galaxy? What's the time period, if it's relevant? How does the story relate? Why is it worth telling? Setting up the story is actually, so this can be information for the storyteller. It doesn't necessarily need to be information for the characters. Setting up the story is where are the characters coming from right as they go into this first scene? Right? Where are they coming from? What's going on in the lives of your heroes? How are they coming into this scene? Is there any baggage that they're taking with them? Is there anything the players need to know before they start the game? Is there anything the storyteller needs to know about the politics or the relationships involved in the story before we begin? That's setting up the story. Okay? Now, scene one, in this case, is an explanation of the Trek rule and how it works. It's entirely possible that none of the Jump Rangers are going to think to themselves, oh, we should go out and explore or find a new planet, because people get distracted and not everybody knows the code when they're playing. So I created a couple of sort of, you know, ideas about how to get that conversation started in this first scene. It's about um, maybe the governor of the colony that they're at is sick and tired of having these kids running around and having the run of the place kind of thing. So they want to kind of get them moving. That's possible. Those are the ideas that we discuss in scene one of this story. Scene two of this story is sneaking aboard the mothership. Sneaking aboard motherships is extremely well documented in the Jump Rangers universe, and nowhere more so than in Chapter 8 of the core book. So I steer people in that direction. There's a conversation about what it takes ordinarily, and multiple methods, in fact, of sneaking aboard Saurian motherships. Right there. That's just push everybody in that direction. So, scene three is what happens when they what happens when they land and they find themselves on a new planet. Maybe it's undiscovered. Maybe it's a planet everybody knows. We'll find out as we roll all these dice on all these tables. Who's running the mothership? Where does the mothership go? There's a whole neat random generation system here for putting the answers to. I want to put my hand right like that. So that's what we did during our last session, was built all these random generation tables. That took a little bit of time. That took about, I mean, we were here for three. I was like a 2.5 hour mission files last week. So we didn't wrap up the story side of this adventure. And that's what we're going to do. And I don't think it's going to take us very long, to be honest. But we need to finish scene three. We need to discuss getting off the mothership, which is, again, well documented. And then we need to wrap up the story and discuss where things go once the Jump Rangers know what they found. And that's it. That's what we're going to do here on the mission files. So let me pull up my handy dandy computer. We're going to scroll up because we're going to need all this space. So we have just gone to the trouble of rolling up a whole planet for the Jump Rangers to be on. Some of these planets are hostile in terms of their environment. Some of them are well-developed Saurian worlds. Some of them are relatively undeveloped Saurian worlds. But in any case, there's a Saurian mothership landing there. So there's Saurians there somewhere. That's what we're... And we should have a Loom world generation table. We're not ready for that right now. But it's a good thing to work on. It's a good thing to have in our back pocket. Maybe next week. Maybe next week. So, once you know where the Rangers are landing, what planet this Saurian mothership is visiting, you know where the Rangers are going to be when they disembark. Are going to find when they disembark. I have frequently been called the fastest hunt and peck typist in Hollywood. My wife, my colleagues, everybody has said this about me. I'm a hunt and peck type. This would be amazed. Getting off Saurian mothership. Is just every bit as well documented is every bit as well documented as getting on as boarding one. So there's not much need. Whoa. To cover that ground here. If the planet in question has air cans and a well-developed spaceport and a well-provisioned then you just want to then the idea is simply to play the story of boarding a ship through the air cans in reverse. If your heroes are more experienced, and if they tend to make short work of air cans, short work of the challenges involved, there's no need to go into too much detail. If the planet in question is less developed in terms of when it comes to Saurian industry, by Saurian less developed by Saurian colonists, then there won't be an air can system for the Rangers to use. In that case, they'll need to leave with any cargo that's being moved to the planet's surface. Procedures in general for doing so are covered in the Jump Rangers core book. Chapter 8. The Storyteller's Toy Box. Is that what it's called? Toy Chest. Mission file. Let's see. First contact to Jump Rangers mission. Scene 3. Planet Rock. I think this is going to be pretty quick. I could have finished this last week, but I was pretty exhausted. So, scene 4 is where we wrap things up, right? We haven't named these scenes. Planning the journey. Let's put it in all caps. The departure. The arrival. And scene 4. The journey home. All right, so this is size 12, not bold. Once the heroes, no, that's too big. Here, let's get the caps off. Once your heroes have discovered, explored the new world, have seen what there is to see on this new world, they can either continue exploring or they can go home and share what they found. Maybe some colonists will return with them to start building. On the way, it's usually wise to stay on a Saurian mothership to confirm the stability of the ship's trade route. So, let's talk a little bit about exploring and waiting for this Saurian mothership. On the way home, it's a good idea to hide out on the mothership once your heroes have seen what there is to see on this. What this new world is like. Excuse me. They can either continue exploring or they can go home and share what they found. When they finally if the mothership they arrived on has at a spaceport or unloaded supplies to a fledgling colony then it's safe to say another mothership will come by sooner or later. And possibly the same one. Very likely the same one. Sooner or later. At the very least. The same mothership. Will be coming back around. In the next, as it cycles through its trade route. If the Rangers miss the mothership and get stuck on this planet because they ran off to explore, then they just need to stay alive long enough to catch the next one. In any case, careful, Rangers. Let a mothership run its trade route once or twice, just to confirm, just to make sure they know the trade route is stable. Before returning to their port of call. Before returning or to a human colony and letting people know what they found. If this is whether the Rangers run off into the wilderness or head back to known space is up to them. Of course, finding out. But what's another word for surveilling? I don't want such a big, clumsy word in a text that's going to be read by kids. Scoping out. Scoping out Saurian mothership's trade route. And learning about the planets that ship visits is more than enough work to justify heading home is a day's work for any ranger. Heading home to the colony where their mission started. Hiding out on the Saurian mothership. Until it returns to their colony of origin. Making their way home to the colony, smiling faces at the colonists they left behind. Is a great place to end a session. If they want to return, if the heroes want to return, turn to this planet and explore. Then maybe the storyteller will build an opera out of the work involved. And surveying. And moving the people and supplies. Home on an alien world. I think that's where it ends. So we're just going to read through this and make sure that it's actually good. But I think we're there. I think this is it. So let's. Where's the. Here we go. Workspace. Interact. Great. 9 pages. All right. So we're just going to read through this and make sure that it's not gobbledygook. According to the Ranger's Code, a jump ranger should always be expanding the boundaries of human knowledge and discovering new places for people to colonize whenever they are not presented with a more urgent challenge or threat to the people they serve and protect. Specifically, the rule that establishes this call to adventure as a fundamental. We don't need that. It's too much. The part of the code that establishes this call to adventure is called the trek rule. Anytime a team of heroes has been hanging out at a colony for a little too long, it's common and reasonable for someone to remind the heroes that the trek rule is always in effect. What I'm saying is that anytime a grown-up wants to get the Rangers out of their hair, or anytime a hero wants to get the story moving again, bringing up the trek rule is a simple and effective way to achieve that. Setting up the story. Most of the time, heroes want to be doing something exciting and constructive. If the heroes of your story are experiencing some downtime It's very likely that one of them will just perk up and say, let's go exploring. The trek will really just exist to remind Rangers that just going exploring really is something they can do. If the Rangers aren't showing enough initiative to move the story forward, then the person to approach them and shoo them on their way is almost always the colony's governor. By the time the Rangers are actually enjoying some downtime, the governor is probably somebody they already know. Depending on the governor's temperament, they might just ask the Rangers where they're headed next, or they might go ahead and remind the Jump Rangers that as a governor, they need help finding new places for people to live. New colonies mean that the colonies we already have can be a little smaller, or they can at least be growing a little less quickly. When fewer people are living in any given colony, it means less mouths to feed and less risk of being discovered by undersoil exterminators. If all else fails, the governor can always let the Rangers know that their presence is a distraction. When the Jump Rangers show up in a colony, everybody stops what they're doing and takes notice. No governor is going to turn down help from the Jump Rangers in a crisis. But once that crisis is resolved, they need life at the colony to return to normal. Politely explaining that the Jump Rangers have worn out their welcome should be enough to get them moving. Once that reality sets in, they'll head to the closest Saurian spaceport and start figuring out which mothership to take off-world. Off-world should be hyphenated. Okay. All right. Hot. Hot. It's hot. I don't run the air conditioner when I'm doing these streams because I think it's noisy and obnoxious. But we're paying the price today. Spying on a Saurian spaceport is the only way to see what motherships are docked there. But that's usually not work that a Jump Ranger needs to do for themselves. Jump Rangers and grown-up scouts will have spent countless hours documenting the comings and going of Saurian motherships from the local spaceport before the heroes ever arrived on this colony, and those records will be available in the colony's governor's office. If there are any ships coming and going from the planet that haven't been identified, or that haven't been jumped in order to chart their trade routes, the governor or their aides will have that information. Discovering a new planet in the Saurian Empire can be as simple as asking the governor or their people where and when that unidentified mothership usually docks, and sneaking aboard to see where and when it usually goes. To see where we don't need the and when, where it usually goes. From here. Keep in mind that not every mothership has a trade route. Some motherships go wherever the Saurian house needs them to go on a case-by-case basis with no rhyme or reason. In cases like this, the mothership still needs to restock and refuel. Either the mothership will head back to Soros at some point, or to planet Cinder, or perhaps it'll head back to the planet you're already on. In any case, no Saurian mothership can afford to stay away from Saurian civilization for too long. Eventually, a mothership will return to a port of call where a Jump Ranger can find other motherships with trade routes that can take them wherever they need to go. What I'm saying is that the only way a Jump Ranger is ever likely to get stranded on an alien world with no hope of rescue is if they get off a mothership on a Saurian world with no Saurian colonies to speak of, and if the mothership leaves without them. If a Ranger is trying to play things safe, then the thing to do is to wait for the Saurians to establish a colony before exploring a new planet. Here we go. Not every Ranger plays it safe, of course, but that's how it's done. Talking through the risks of exploring a new world, as well as what the governor might be hoping to find on the other side of an uncharted mothership's trade route, is what this scene is all about. Does the governor need supplies that might be available on an alien world? Do they need a new place to move colonists? Are they looking to evacuate their entire colony, perhaps, due to some kind of impending threat? Knowing what a governor wants and needs will give your team something to look for, something specific to look for. Good. All right. Scene 2, The Departure. In Chapter 8 of the Jump Rangers Core Book, in Scene 2 of First Contact, a Jump Rangers mission, the general details of sneaking on and off a Saurian mothership are covered more or less comprehensively. Most Saurian spaceports have the air cans mentioned in that chapter, and the ones that don't will require a Ranger to sneak off and on the mothership with the cargo. In either case, the comings and goings of Jump Rangers on Saurian motherships is a well-documented phenomenon. The details are in that chapter. We'll just put that. The overall procedures involved is detailed in that chapter. All you really need to do to make that scene appropriate for this adventure is to change the scenery. For a jump ranger, getting on and off a Saurian mothership is a matter of routine. If the heroes of your story have already seen enough of this particular planet spaceport to begin with, then it's safe to say they can get on and off the mothership without too much trouble. Keep the story focused on the most risk-intensive elements of their infiltration effort. Don't spend too much time fussing over whether they make it on or off them, make it on the mothership, unless, of course, someone has a colossal botch. Someone makes a colossal botch on their die roll. On their dice rolls. When the dice give us a plot tangent by letting one of your heroes screw things up to a monumental degree, those story elements can be some of the most rewarding and entertaining plot threads to pursue. If your characters are captured and hauled off to the gladiator pits of Soros, then your story is moving forward. Now your characters have something urgent to do. The trek rule can wait. Scene 3, the arrival. This is where your story really comes to life. Where this story really comes to life is in finding out where the mothership is headed. If your heroes have the technical knowledge and the stealth to do so, they might try to sneak onto the Rexor bridge and steal information about the mothership's flight path, itinerary, mission, and cargo from the ship's computer systems. Alternatively, they can just wait until the mothership lands and sneak outside to see what's there. In either case, this is when we need to know where this mothership is going and what they're up to when they get there. If you have some answers to these questions in mind, fantastic. By all means, use them. If you don't know where to start, then this data deck file will offer you a randomly generated destination for your mothership. Where a mothership goes in its travels and why it goes there has a massive impact on what the mothership's crew are like and how they do things. What's more, knowing what Saurian house is operating the mothership can offer some insight into what the ship is trying to achieve by docking at the ports it docks at, or by exploring new worlds, or by doing whatever it is they're doing. Let's start by building a profile of the worlds this mothership. Okay. Let's build a profile. Let's find out who's running the show. Let's find out who's running this ship. And where they're running it to. Random Saurian mothership generation table. I need a Saurian mothership encounter table too. This is all going to be useful stuff. Maybe it won't be in the data deck. Maybe it's going to be compiled. There's got to be a Saurian, there has to be a Saurian, what you call it, source book at some point. And in these data decks, there is so much material on the Saurian horde that putting together a Saurian source book is going to be an intel file, is what I call them, an intel file on the Saurian horde. I have all the material I need at this point. I've written so much about them in these data decks, and they're apart from the adventure from the Undersor Alliance adventure, which was the first adventure I wrote, which I need to work on this week and update for the 2.0 rules. There really isn't anything out there on the Saurian horde that's not covered in the core book. So it's probably about time for me to think about a Saurian intel file. These data decks are going to be really useful in all kinds of different ways. I don't know if they're not going to remain micro supplements. I don't think. I'll be using this information down the road. But for now, it's a great little, it's a great little tool to put. Wait a second. What have I done? No, it's the. You see what I did? I made the font in this first table too small. So to make it bigger. Easy fix. So, step 1, roll 1 die to find out which Saurian house is in charge of the mothership your heroes have stowed away on. You can use this information to start thinking about who's running this mothership and what they might want from the planets they visit. 1 is House Talon. For centuries, House Talon has ruled the Saurian horde with an iron fist and an iron will. To find out more about House Talon, 2 is House Cataclysm, by far the most rambunctious of the Saurian houses. Comma. They don't make the best warriors, but they do make the scariest ones. 3 is House Dragon. Lizards of Industry, House Dragon has served for millennia as the best weaponsmiths and shipbuilders of the Saurian Empire. I misspelled millennia. 4, House Creech. Driven to the by the bullying of other stronger houses. House Creech aims to claim their place in the horde by bullying and exploiting those who are even weaker than they are. 5 is House Serpentis. Known as the bureaucrats of Soros, House Serpentis is a snake pit of secrets and schemes. 6 is House Siska. House Siska has earned a place in the Empire by literally taking out the garbage. Being the janitors of the Saurian Horde doesn't have many perks, but at least nobody wants to kill House Siska. 7 is House Spawn. Major house of the Saurian Horde, House Spawn produces and distributes most of the tools and products of Saurian daily life. Because the colonies have been fed misinformation by the criminal space rats, most humans have no idea that House Spawn exists. 8 is House Viper, basically a gang of space dinosaur terrorists and pirates aiming to destabilize and rule the Saurian Horde. When House Viper gets where they're going to attack any Saurian. When House Viper arrives at a new Saurian colony, they're unless they have allies, secret allies on the ground. When House Viper arrives at a new Saurian world, they're going to attack any Saurian strongholds they find, unless they have secret allies on the ground. How does this mothership dock at the spaceport where you boarded them? How did this mothership dock where you boarded? Where you boarded from without anybody noticing? Maybe the spaceport is in league with the pirates. Maybe they were disguised. Maybe the mothership was disguised. Okay. Step 2. Roll 1 die to find out how many destinations the mothership you're on stops at along their trade route. All right. All of this is more or less copied and pasted from other parts. So this is all pretty safe text. Roll 1 die to find out what kind of planet your mothership is visiting. Motherships tend to visit worlds with an established Saurian spaceport, even if it's small. Only rarely does a mothership set out to establish a new Saurian colony, so keep in mind that just because no human has ever seen this planet doesn't mean the Saurians haven't been here for a very long time. And here's all the new planets you can discover. And then now we're in the stuff that we wrote today. So it says, let's scroll down. This is all the charts, and this is where we wound up. Once you know what planets the Saurian mothership is visiting, you know what the Rangers are going to do when they find when they disembark. Getting off a Saurian mothership is every bit as well documented as boarding one. There's not much need to cover that ground here. If the planet in question has air cans, let's delete that space, and a well-provisioned spaceport, the idea is simply to play the story of boarding a ship through the air cans in reverse. If your heroes are more experienced, and if they tend to make short work of the challenges involved, there's no need to go into much detail when it comes to sneaking off a mothership. The planet in question is less developed by Saurian colonists, and there won't be an air can system for the Rangers to use. In that case, they'll need to leave with any cargo that's being moved to the planet's surface. In general, the procedures involved for doing so are covered in the following. Once your heroes have seen what this new world is like, they can either continue exploring or they can go home and share what they found. If the mothership they arrived on has docked at a spaceport or unloaded supplies to a fledgling colony, then it's safe to say that another mothership will come by sooner or later. At the very least, the same mothership will come back around. Probably come back around as it cycles through its trade route, as part of its trade route. If the Rangers miss the mothership and get stuck on this planet because they ran off to explore, then they just need to stay alive long enough to catch the next one. Careful Rangers will usually let a mothership run its trade route once or twice. Just to make sure that the trade route is stable before getting off and returning to a human colony. Whether the Rangers run off into the wilderness or head back, okay. Okay. Here we go. Scoping out a Saurian mothership's trade route and learning about the planets that ship visits is a big day's work for any ranger. Careful rangers will usually let a mothership run its trade route once or twice just to make sure they know the route is stable before getting off and returning to a human colony. Hiding out on the Saurian mothership until it returns to their colony of origin and making their way home to the smiling faces of the colonists they left behind is a great place to end a session. If the heroes want to return to this planet and explore, then maybe the storyteller can build an opera out of the work involved in surveying this planet, the new planet they've discovered. Finding a good spot for a colony and moving the people and supplies and helping to move the people and supplies necessary to building a new home on an alien world. That's it. I'm going to save this. I'm going to post it. This is a good, solid, uh, this is a good, solid data deck file. There's a lot of stuff here. It's 10 pages. All right. So this is what we do on the Mission File streams. I have at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, I have an actual play session on this Twitch stream, this Twitch channel, with Federico Esteval. I'm going to get this. But Federico's going to be here, and Nippy Looney's going to be here. We're going to play some Jump Rangers. It's called Metagame. The idea is that working with people who are involved in the game is going to make everybody eager to share their ideas. We're going to wind up on tangents talking about character work. Nippy Looney is the love of my life, but also a voice actor. Federico is the concept designer and art director of Jump Rangers. So I'm hoping to tease him into tangents about the look of the universe and how things feel. I don't want him to get too absorbed in the gameplay, but he's being very respectful. I'm trying to goad him basically into making it hard for me to run a game. And that's kind of the comedy of metagame. It hasn't really taken off in that way, but it's a fun game. So, log in and ask Federico design questions. That's how we do that. And on Tuesdays, I read a chapter from the Jump Rangers book that I'm writing. It's called Ranger Stories. Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, right here. And if anybody's interested, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, I stream Star Citizen on my private channel, which is Tecker10, twitch.tv/Tecker10. There's a lot of other stuff coming. This is like the 73rd data deck that I've written. There's 5 actual full-blooded supplements to Jump Rangers as well. There's 8 chapters worth of core book. All of that is available on the Patreon. The core book, the first 10 chapters of the novel that I'm writing, is all free, and the rest of it comes with $5 a month. So join us on Patreon. Find us on Discord. The links are below. Thank you for watching. Go high and go far, Rangers. Take care.